Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, and this is it, episode number 114, the finale at the Brazilian Grand Prix for Season 6. It all comes down to this. If you guys did miss the previous episode at the Mexican Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out. Very chaotic and very crucial to set up how we go into this finale. But before we get into that, today's finale episode is sponsored. Yes, we're really moving up in the world. Sponsored by Command, a new way to get your energy buzz through long days of lockdown. And trust me, I know how long they've been. Command's a new gaming nutrition brand offering energy drinks and shakes from the guys over at My Protein. So if you've ever dabbled in working out or lifting weights, you probably have heard of My Protein, massive brand. I'm actually a personal customer of theirs, so when they came to me wanting to work with me in this capacity for their new gaming range, I was actually over the moon. I know the quality. If you know My Protein, you know the quality guarantee is going to be there with this range of products. The whole Command range is zero sugar and, more importantly, really low calorie. Now, that's important to me because you guys know, if you've been with me for a while, I went through a whole weight loss journey process myself a few years back, and so these days I need to keep on top of my calories, and so if I can help not drinking extra calories, that's always an added bonus at the same time as getting that little energy fix. And you guys can get 20% off the entire site, any order you do, by using the code aarava at checkout. My personal favorite flavor for the actual shake is the blue raspberry one, and for the energy drink can, I'm actually very partial to the grape flavor. Again, like I said, you can use the code aarava at checkout, again 20% off your entire order, and that'll also help me out as well. But let's get on with the rest of the video. And headed into this final race weekend, if you did catch the last episode, you'll know we are leading the championship then by 2 measly points. Gasly 1 point back. So the top three, the three championship contenders here, myself, Leclerc and Gasly, separated by 3 points, which is really insane to think, because at one point we were in third place in the standings, about 11 points off the lead. So it really has become really volatile in the last few rounds especially, and in the end we've actually ended up with some good luck right at the end at Mexico. It was where it was very chaotic with a safety car, and we're able to get the lead, the championship once again, and kind of be in the driving seat. But it really doesn't mean that much because Brazil is always a very tough place and it's a finale, so anything could happen. And at Sao Paulo things tend to happen in terms of traffic, overtaking cars, the weather as well. And in the constructors, it's still open mathematically. Mercedes or Ferrari could still maybe do it. I think Mercedes have the better chance, of course. Obviously Russell's been performing so well that I'm quietly confident that we should be able to round out that constructors championship. The reason why we brought Russell into the team halfway through this season was to solidify that. But now individually we've got to focus and try and beat Gasly and Leclerc, and it's going to be tough because, as if you've watched the last few episodes, they've been very quick and consistent. There's obviously been some times where they've gotten unlucky, but also that could equally happen to me, so we can't really, rest on that essentially. And so we go into qualifying. Yeah, it's anyone's game. It really is, and more so than ever, I feel a little bit worried about, what could happen, because so many times we've seen Leclerc and Gasly individually in different races. Once they zone in, they sometimes just kind of pulled away and we've been nowhere near them in the races. Whereas now, because there's only 3 points in it and we've tended to be right at the top, us three have been in the top 5 of every race pretty much, it means that we have to go for broke. We have to go for the race win. We have to beat both of them on track. I don't think, unlike previous seasons, this time I can rest on a mathematical kind of outcome to get me the championship, even though if I was to finish behind them. I think I'm a little bit too cautious that we're too closely matched this season for that to be the case. So we have to just go for glory, and we have to be aiming for that race win, or at least to beating both of them on track, fair and square. And obviously, as usual, the first part of that is doing the job on Saturday, over 1 lap in qualifying, getting through to that crucial top 10 shootout, and we do get through. The car showing some good pace, but the Mercedes team as a pairing, both Verstappen and Gasly, looking strong. Obviously, Verstappen went on to win in a very decent fashion, really, at Mexico, so he's looking to continue that form. Gasly's looking strong. Leclerc on the back foot, Ferrari in the back foot. Giovinazzi knocked out, so Ferrari's only got one sole man, which is Leclerc, so he's on his own flying the flag. So maybe that might be an advantage to myself and Gasly. I don't know. Giovinazzi wasn't really a massive, aid to Leclerc really in recent races. If I think about it, he didn't put up a fight to us at Mexico hardly. So maybe that's not really a massive issue. But it's interesting to see one Ferrari knocked out. at a race like this. So that maybe shows maybe Leclerc might be on the back foot in terms of pure pace. Let's see. It's now time for the top 10 shootout. This is where it really matters, and this is where we see the true pace. You know, Q2 and Q1 doesn't really mean that much, and you can see why, because Leclerc is looking strong now. When it matters, he's right there. Only, I think, half a tenth that was off Gasly, and both of them are in P2 and P3 that was on the first run. Obviously, we get 2 runs here. We didn't waste any tyres in Q2 and Q1, so I have a second free set of soft tyres, and you can see how much time we've gained in Sector 2, nearly 6 to 7 tenths there, as the traction is really quite something in the last corner. A little bit wide, but still better than I actually did on the first run, and it looks like in general the track is gripping up. Everyone is setting much better lap times. We've gained, yeah, about 7 tenths, carried that over through to the last few corners to the line, 7.2 tenths across it, and is that going to be good enough to aim for pole for the first row? Yes, it will. The first row, second place, but who's on pole? I don't even know at all. It's Gasly. Pierre Gasly's on pole, and would you, but look at that. That is just, it's meant to be. It's meant to be. Only 3 points in it between myself, Gasly, and Leclerc in the championship. And in this final race of this season, look how close it is between us three. This is why it's been us three in the championship, because no one's been this consistently quick throughout the entire time. Gasly's on another pole position. We get a pretty decent second row, and Leclerc closely behind him in P3. So this is very interesting. Hopefully there's no grid penalties for any of us, and this could be very tasty in the opening few corners and laps with the top 3 in the championship, top 3 in this race. It is going to be a firecracker for sure with that start. Let's go to the grid.
Formula One returns to Sao Paulo once again with the stage set for what promises to be another classic Brazilian Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel famously clinched his 3rd championship here in 2012, and in 2016, Max Verstappen treated us to one of the finest wet weather drives of all time. We're racing today then at Interlagos, a historic 2.7-mile circuit, and one of the few anti-clockwise tracks on the calendar. 15 corners in total, 9 to the left and 6 to the right, with a technical middle section opening up to a flat-out Sector 3. And that gives us our best passing opportunity down into Turn 1. And so, for one final time this season, Anthony Davidson joins me in the commentary box.
Well, the winter break is looming once again. No doubt many of those teams already have their eyes firmly on next season. But there's still work to be done here. Still championship positions to decide, which can make a big difference to the prize money. So no one's going to be taking their foot off the throttle just yet.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Pierre Gasly lines up on pole position and the owner driver alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Ocon, Lando Norris and Russell, Verstappen, Sainz, Albon and Valtteri Bottas, Ricciardo, De Vries, Daniel Kvyat and Aitken, Magnussen, Giotto, Mick Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton, Stroll, Latifi, Giovinazzi and Nobuharu Matsushita. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
We're still in with a shot at the driver's title. It's down to this. Now go out there and come back a champion.
Some sterling words from Jeff there. That is exactly what we need to do. And in a season like this, really, honestly, like I said, in a season like this is the time to just go out there and wring the neck out of this car and just aim for glory, because Leclerc and Gasly have been so quick. I think as AI drivers, they've been boosted on stats throughout this season. I think this season, honestly, is the fastest we've seen those two AI specifically in this career of ours. And I'm sure that makes things very exciting for you guys. And it's even more so because look at this on the strategy window. We've got rain on the way, but you'll notice also it was already very overcast. I think it's already starting to drizzle a little bit. So we may just have a sort of 2012 sort of vibes here at Sao Paulo, where it's a bit wet, it's a bit wild, but it's maybe not quite yet for intermediates until the end of this race. So that's going to be another layer of intrigue and interest. In terms of strategy, I'm not too sure. We're going to obviously start on the soft tyres, but if the rain is to come, we're on inters by the end of it. Maybe we want to go to medium tyres, not bother with the hards, and go for the mediums because we know we'll go into inters earlier. And then also, in those kind of conditions where it's kind of drizzly, you want the softer compound because those tyres warm up a little bit, grip up a little bit better in those changeable conditions versus the hard tyres. But I'm not too sure what Gasly and Leclerc will do, but I think that's where I'm thinking about it. But first and foremost, as I said, on this opening few laps, it's going to be very interesting, a bit tense, but I'm going to have to aim to overtake Gasly there and get the lead. And then from there, I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't mind a kind of duller race where we control the race from there just to see this through, but I doubt it's going to be, knowing us and knowing this career mode season. But we're here then at the final race at Sao Paulo. Now, I just want to say, preface before we get into the actual race running, you'll notice there could be a few less replay cameras used in this episode, and that's because you may have noticed in the previous 2 finales we've had, there's something fundamentally a little bit iffy and broken with my game. I don't know quite what, but all the replay cameras get shown in broad daylight no matter what the weather. So, as you clearly saw on the grid, it's very overcast, but all the replay cameras were playing back as if it was fully dry and it was like midday rather than the afternoon at Brazil. So, there's a few less replay cameras just because it looks very, very odd, and those of you who won't probably even bother watching this part of the video probably won't understand why that replay camera is like that, but it's just something that's broken on my game. I don't really know why. It's been like that now for about 3 seasons, so it's something you guys are probably used to if you've been a regular follower of the career mode series here, but just wanted to point that out. But anyway, let's zone back in and get a little bit more tense here in the commentary box for myself as we get on to a final crucial race with 3 points in it between myself, Gasly, and Leclerc. With us in second place, Gasly on pole and Leclerc behind, we go to 5 red lights for the final round of this season, and the championship decider. Lights are out, and we're underway. Bit of a shaky start from Gasly. We use ERS into turn 1. Side by side, we'll go. Gonna nearly graze tyre wall to tyre wall as we try and go around the outside. At the centre rest, it's a good exit, but then on the swooping left-hander, Gasly has it on the outside, does he? Leclerc also in behind him. We're still 1, 2, 3 as we were on the grid. Gasly trying to go around the outside to take the lead back, but we're trying our best. We're still in first place, but then on the curb, a slight twitch of oversteer, and Gasly's able to shoot through into first. Leclerc even has a stab at it, and he's now trying his best to get through on the inside. Doesn't quite work, so in the end, it is the exact same order as we were on the grid as we enter the heart of Sector 2. Gasly took the lead back there as we had a small wobble on the curb, but we continue to pursue him. But at the moment, he's still in the lead. Myself in second place, Leclerc in third, Ocon at the moment in P4, Russell P5, and Norris in behind in P6, I believe. But yellow flags, and it's because George Russell with a massive engine failure, smoke pouring out of his car, out of our car indeed, and that is going to make life a little bit more interesting perhaps, because obviously ever since we signed Russell, he's been great at scoring points, and we need that today for the constructors. But the full course safety car is called out because not only is Russell out, Jack Aiken's been caught up in some chaos there, so that's going to be interesting because, as I said, there is already water in the air and it's already starting to slightly rain, just not every part of the circuit, but I can see there are some spits of rain already coming off the chassis and the halo of the car, so the rain is already here. So it's kind of 2012 Brazil vibes where it's a little bit damp maybe, but it's not damp enough for the intermediates yet. So this is going to be, I mean, it's going to get even worse basically because we're going to sit here under the safety car and allow this rain to fall down a little bit more before we get going for full, green flag racing. So this will make things even trickier for us to navigate. But Russell out, that's quite big because, let's say if Verstappen was to come through and join Gasly right up here, Mercedes might have a good chance of actually outscoring us if I'm the only one scoring points. We'll have to see about that. And then also just means that there's less one player in it, maybe one, car that could have helped me fighting Gasly Leclerc, depending on how this race shakes out. So that's unfortunate for Russell. It is the end of the season though. He hasn't had an engine failure or issue with our car specifically since he got signed to our team, so maybe it was inevitable and the F1 gods have come down on him this race, unfortunately. So it is just me alone at Vodafone Mercedes car in this race. We now wind up for the restart then, and the rain is very much here. You can see it coming off the halo, but it's not strong enough yet to warrant inters, but it's certainly going to make things interesting when the track gets a bit damp. Right now though, as we wait for green, applying pressure to Gasly, almost side by side, but not quite overtaking him yet until we get to that white line for the brand new lap, and there we go. Now we can pounce, and we're going to try and make an immediate impact to retake the lead. We already did this once at turn 1, lap 1, but we go again. Lap number 5 this time. It's even closer. We actually make a bit of contact this time as things are getting a bit tense between myself and Gasly. Once again, Leclerc in the mix as well behind the mirror. As you can see, he tries to maybe make a move on Gasly. Instead, he actually gets attacked by Ocon, it looks like, and it's a bit of traffic involved there with the two McLarens either side of the Ferrari. Actually, that wasn't. Gasly, meantime, tucks in for second and continues to pressurize this. Lap number 6 in the same place where we had a battle on the opening laps. He goes for a little move. We go defensive to the inside. This time, doing enough to stay ahead and staying off that curb, more importantly, on the left-hand side. That gave us so much oversteer. That kind of gave up the lead initially on that lap number 1. But lap number 7, Gasly still there. And now I think DRS will be activated. And he doesn't even need it, though, because he's just got pure slipstream. But there you go. DRS will be enabled into turn 1. It's a massive squeeze from us. But even more so, even bigger elbow out from Gasly to make sure he gave himself the room there. So we tried to be a bit cheeky, a bit aggressive with him into turn 1. He wasn't having any of it. But now he's susceptible to an attack from Leclerc. And Verstappen's in the background. He's come out of nowhere. Verstappen's overtaking both McLarens. And he's up into P4. But meanwhile, you're watching on Gasly and Leclerc side by side for P2 and 3 as we go up the hill. Leclerc just pushes him out wide. And that actually invites Verstappen very nicely to slip through there. So Leclerc very robust with his defense. And Gasly's gone from P1 down to P4 in the span of 2 laps, that is. And Verstappen is looking like the quicker silver arrow. And in stark contrast, our other championship rival Leclerc is looking pretty good now in this race. He's finding his feet. He's got DRS on the inside there. We try and pinch him to the corner, but he's having none of it. He holds his line. We're trying our best to pull through on the right-hand side. Can we just get the nose turned in? Bit of a dive, bit of a kind of lunge to see if we can find the room, find the space to work with, and we actually do, and we actually manage to push Leclerc a little bit wide there to the point where Verstappen is now in the mix maybe, but now as we cut on to lap number 11, Verstappen now falling away a bit. Gasly's re-overtaken him. Norris is up into P3, but Leclerc is the constant here in this race. He continues to pressurize us. This time, we learn from our mistakes. We defend the inside line there, and this time he's unable to get through. But you can see as I look back behind me, the spits of rain were there, so the rain is still falling lightly, but it is falling, so it is very, very much a bit damp and treacherous out there. But Leclerc, deja vu, comes back through on the inside. This time I couldn't cut in to the inside to defend my line, and instead we actually are just going to be a bit patient and stick with him for the next lap onto lap number 13 and just take this easy in the corners. They're getting a little bit tricky on the curves, a little bit wet, but in a straight line we still have the advantage, I feel, over Ferrari as we have this entire season. DRS open, ERS deployed, and you can feel that slipstream coming in. It's very fine on the left. Leclerc almost cut into the inside last minute, but we just held our line, held our foot on the right pedal and got to the inside, and we're back up into first place. So this has been great. This has been a great natural scrap between myself, Leclerc, and even Gasly in the first few laps there. So great to see that, you know, the 3 championship rivals are able to fight for the race lead basically in this kind of way, in a very natural form in the race. But now Leclerc had come into the pit lane on the previous lap. Gasly came in, and we actually come in 2 laps after Leclerc, that was, and 1 lap after Gasly. Now both of them, I can tell you, they've come on for the hard compounded tyres. So even though it's so overcast, even though you can see some spits of rain coming off the halo and chassis in parts of the circuit, it's still not anywhere damp enough for Inters. So everyone's going on to dries. I thought, okay, if we're still going on dries, why don't we just go on soft tyres? Because the soft compound will heat up quicker, grip in quicker, and if I know that intermediates will surely be in the way, there's no way it's raining this much now and it's not going to be Inters later. So although we've been jumped by Leclerc, he's got the undercut on us. The difference is we've gone 2 laps longer on the first stint, so our tyres are fresher and they're the softs. And so here we come, lap 17, overtake Leclerc. But as we do it, I think that was Pierre Gasly, was that? I think Pierre Gasly is out of the race, that message. And the full course safety cars are being called out for a second time now in this race. And it is because I think Pierre Gasly is out. The Frenchman, one of our other championship rivals, he is out of the Brazilian Grand Prix. What a shame for him. What a shame for Mercedes. What a shame for this championship fight, really, because, you know, the way it was going, it looked like myself, Gasly and Leclerc could have been fighting all race long for the race win. Instead, it's going to be a 2-horse race now officially. Gasly's completely down and out now of this Grand Prix. It's all now between myself and Leclerc, surprise, surprise, our old rival from Seasons 2 and Season 3. I've only been in a championship battle with him since that Season 3 fight. So here we go now, 16 laps to go. Rain is very much there, you can see on the halo on the top of there, and we're all on dry tyres. This is going to be very interesting, and at the moment, Stroll leads the way, Sainz in second, we're in third. You can see the constant twitching I'm doing with the steering wheel in parts of the circuit to make sure we keep this thing on the tarmac, as now Stroll comes in. We overtake Sainz as he squeezes us. Leclerc is in. Are they going on to intermediates? Do they think it's time? I still think there's enough grip right now to at least go on for one more lap maybe on these soft compound tyres. But I've said it a few times, but it's just because it's so true. It's so odd. This is so like 2012 Sao Paulo. Like, it looks so wet out there, but the grip's kind of still there, and everyone, majority, is now still on the dry tyres. But I feel like now is the crossover period. Like I said, I think it was dry enough for one more lap. My engineer thinks the same thing, because now he's asked me to change strategy onto the intermediates. I will obviously accept. I'll box in this lap. So I think we've actually been okay. I don't think we'll lose to Leclerc. I think, honestly, the reason why I stayed out was because I genuinely thought that at least the Sector 1 and Sector 2 grip levels were fine. So we're now in for intermediates, and let's just see on the top left hand of the minimap where Leclerc will be. Of course, now we only have one man to really look to. Gasly is out. He's out of this fight now, and so it's all about Leclerc. And also, to be fair, Gasly being out means that the pressure for the constructors is off, because with Russell DNFing, but with Gasly now out as well, that means I think we should have the constructors in the bag. It's all about now the individual championship. And where is Leclerc? We're taking it a little bit cautiously on the pit lane exit, just to make sure we don't graze the wall. The grip levels have very much plummeted in literally the span of half a lap there, as the rain has really come down and settled. But there we are. We've jumped Leclerc. We're out in first place of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Stroll's gone way down the order. We've come out in first place. Leclerc second, Sainz in third, Bottas in fourth, and Verstappen fifth. A very weird pecking order for the rest of this race, but we've now got 13 laps to go. 13 laps to soak up this pressure from Leclerc and maybe others. As Leclerc, he go in for it. Look at that. That proximity arrow went red as he tried that dive bomb. I got PTSD from last season where Albon took us out of that same corner there. Leclerc really going for it in that one, and so the pressure really will be on. Here we are then, 10 laps to go. Lap 26, we're catching up to a back mark of Luca Chiotto. Can we try and hopefully get past him, and maybe he could help us out by blocking Leclerc a bit? And you know what? Sainz in this race, look at the minimap. Sainz in third place in the Red Bull, not doing too badly. So maybe in these wet conditions, the Red Bull could be a bit of a threat and could help us out if he starts attacking Leclerc somewhat. And then you've got Verstappen, who was strong at the start of this race, fell away a bit. He might be catching up to Bottas in a very high AlphaTauri position, and he might be a threat as well. But as I said, Giovinazzi way down the order, Gasly out, Russell out. In terms of constructors, it is very much neutralised. I think we have that in the bag for Aarava Archer Racing. But 6 laps to go right now, and all could still change in the individual Drivers' Championship as the rain continues to come down. The track getting trickier and trickier to navigate in the corners for sure. We're not looking as strong as Leclerc as we go deep into turn 1, missing our break point, and then on the center S, just not that great on the exit. Twitch of oversteer, left and right, soaring away at the steering wheel, and as we do so, we actually hold up Leclerc, who was right under our rear wing actually, and that's allowed Sainz to come in. So as I said, could the Red Bull be a threat today? Could he get in the mix and be a spanner in the works? Because Sainz is actually up into second. Leclerc's going to have to really fight hard to get back into second place. He's done so. Lap 33, and he's back pressurizing us. But as I said, in the corners, the Ferrari's decent. We've seen that. Obviously, Leclerc, remember how good Leclerc was at Suzuka in the wet, and massively right now, we are struggling, and the rear end stepped out. Leclerc is going to be alongside us now as we run to the line for lap 34. 3 laps to go, including the one we're on, and we are now in second place just by half a car length. We've got to try our best to sail around the outside. Easy does it on the throttle pedal. Try and dance away through into the apex. Bit of oversteer, and Leclerc is shoved off the racing liner somewhat and is down to second place once again. And we can breathe a little bit. That was close. That was a poor mistake from us at the end of the lap, and that's what I mean. The pressure's there. We cannot make a mistake if we want this, and there's no way if we get beaten by Leclerc on the road we're going to win the championship. There's no mathematics, no Alain Prost strategy we can pull. We have to beat him fair and square on track today with him in second place there as we cross the line for the last lap of the Grand Prix. Nice and easy into turn 1, and we're just making sure we don't make any final mistakes. But as we round the final bend on the last lap, the oversteer's still there. It's a very tricky circuit, but we pulled away a bit from Leclerc, and we're coming to the line to win the Brazilian Grand Prix and to win Season 6 of this F1 2020 My Team Career Mode season. We've done it against all the odds. From where we were pre-Mexico to now, this very odd, tricky race in wet but dry tyre conditions, we've done it.
And so the celebrations begin, and well earned they are indeed. It may have looked simple at times, but as any racing driver will tell you, competing at this level, at the very top, is anything but simple. There's no catching them now then. We have a new World Drivers' Champion. Victory today then, but bittersweet emotions I'm sure, as the championship slips through their fingers. Even so, what a fantastic final race of the season this was. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 works.
So there we have it after a very closely contested championship season between myself, Leclerc and Gasly. In the end, unfortunate for Gasly not to be in the fight proper right to the end, but that's how Formula 1 is. Sometimes it can be cruel, but we are celebrating in the garage as we win our 3rd Drivers' Championship. Of course, we won Season 3, we won Season 5, and we won Season 6. So this is actually the first time, actually, in the entire game, we've actually won back-to-back championships in the drivers and constructors, of course. Obviously, we lost the championship in Season 2 in a fight with Leclerc. We obviously weren't really in the fight in Season 4, and we did defeat Gasly last season. We defeated Leclerc. This is kind of nice, actually, the fact that Gasly wasn't in the fight right at the end here, because we beat Leclerc again this season rather than Gasly 2 times in a row. But it was very, very close. And with a race like that, I mean, I think you guys can agree that could have gone either way, because you guys have seen me sometimes in those changeable conditions. There's been some pretty bad mistakes in the past, I will admit, so I was very nervous in the last, especially 10 laps, really, knowing that I had 10 full laps of intermediate conditions. It could have really gone anyway, and to be honest, I'm surprised we didn't make any mistakes in terms of playing the dry tyre strategy whilst it was wet, because there were points in that race where I was second-guessing myself of how wet it's going to get. Should we be going on to inters earlier? But we just stuck with our guts and stayed out on the dries as other people were, and we made the most of it, and we pulled through in the end. And even without George Russell today, we're able to get enough points, of course, with that win and win the constructors. And quite nicely, to be fair, you know, Gasly's won 2 races this season. Leclerc did as well. Quite nice and fitting in a way that we round out this season and win the championship by also matching our rivals and winning a second race ourselves in this season. I don't think anyone actually won more than 2 races. I think that's the most any individual got. I think Ocon, Gasly, Leclerc, myself, and Lando Norris, I believe, were the only, and maybe Verstappen as well, were all the guys that got 2 wins apiece. But of course, the only consistent men throughout the entire season were Gasly, Leclerc, and myself. And in the end, it was a very nerve-wracking and fitting ending to the championship, I feel, in that kind of sense. But that is it then, guys. The end of season number 6 of our F1 2020 My Team Career Mode. If you guys did enjoy the finale and the entire season, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. And you guys are going to have to wait till late next week to see the beginning of Season 7. Till then, goodbye.